This page is the cover of Total 64 magazine, Volume 1, Issue 12. It features a promo for a free 16-page WCW vs. NWO Tips magazine. The cover stars the game Fighter's Destiny, with an exclusive review of the N64's best beat-em-up, apparently. Also featured is Yoshi's story, with the tagline, "Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin." Also on the cover is a promise of a massive Fighter's Destiny moves poster, plus mentions of Body Harvest, Quake 64, Madden 64, MK Mythologies, Sub-Zero, Nagano Winter Olympics, 98, and Wild Choppers, as well as reviews and first looks. The next page is a full-page advert for WCW vs. NWO World Tour on the Nintendo 64. It features Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and DDP, with the tagline, "Are your friends always picking on you?" The advert emphasizes the game's 4-player head-to-head mode and includes screenshots. According to Total 64, it's so good, it must be played, even if you're not a fan. The next page is the front cover of Total 64 magazine, featuring artwork of a blue Yoshi floating above a green Yoshi against a red background. It proclaims, "Welcome to our birthday issue of Total 64, and includes the magazine's logo and volume number. This page is the contents page for the magazine, celebrating its first birthday. It teases reviews of several games, including Fighter's Destiny, which they consider the big game of the month and worthy of the N64. Other titles covered include Madden 64, MK Mythologies, Sub-Zero, Famistar 64, Wild Choppers, Puyo Puyo Sun 64, 64 Uzumo, and Wheel of Fortune. The magazine seems quite proud of itself for reaching its first anniversary. The next page is the contents page of Total 64 magazine, Issue 12. It features a breakdown of what you'll find inside. In first look, there's Body Harvest, a promising blend of action and RPG elements. Pod, a new futuristic racer, gets a look in, and Art of Fighting Twin lets you battle as either real people or manga characters. There's also Spooky, a game that aims to bring some scares to the N64, Buggy Boogie offering buggy-based funky tunes, and Cruisin' World is on its way to this side of the pond. RPG Jest and Biofreaks, which involves futuristic fighters. In features, they're taking a look back at the first year of Total 64 and the console itself. Pre-play takes an early look at Yoshi's story. Quake 64 gets a preview, touted as a potential rival to GoldenEye. Finally, Nagano Winter Olympics from the creators of ISS Soccer 64, and a preview of Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 98. The regular sections include news, first looks, reviews intro, reviews roundup, cheat zone, datal codes, the firing line, high scores, subscriptions, back issues, next month and sign off. This page covers the latest N64 news, focusing on how Nintendo is bolstered by overseas sales. According to Famitsu magazine, worldwide N64 sales are doing well, though the console hasn't quite taken off in Japan. Sales figures for Japan and the rest of the world are listed, including comparisons with other consoles like the Super Famicom, Game Boy, Saturn, and PlayStation. There's also a lowdown section, detailing European release dates for upcoming N64 games. Titles mentioned include G.ASP, MK Mythologies, Sub-Zero, Robotech, Crystal Dreams, Chameleon Twist, Dual Heroes, Nagano Winter Olympics 98, NBA in the Zone 98, Castlevania 64, Quest 64, Tonic Trouble, Twisted Edge Snowboarding, and Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 98. Some unknown titles are also mentioned, such as Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Quest, F-Zero 64, Mission, Impossible, Yoshi's Story, Zelda 64, and Attack. Finally, there is a brief mention of a new flight sim game from Paradigm and Video Systems, called Flights of the Un, promising Rumble Pack compatibility and multiplayer. It's being touted as Pilot Wings with Attitude, and will be at least a 96 MB game. This page opens with the headline "Noah Rolls On," detailing Nintendo's strong sales in the US, with Mario 64, Cruisin' USA, Shadows of the Empire, Wave Race 64, GoldenEye, and Diddy Kong Racing as top sellers. It states that Noah added that revenue generated by the video games industry was up 151%, and Nintendo's own retail sales were up 463% on last year. The page announces a new N64 update for the arcade classic Frogger, which will be titled Frogger 3D, a polygon update with new levels and a 2-player battle mode, and Capcom is working on 3 new N64 games: Ghouls and Ghosts 64, Mega Man 64, and a racing game. Ghouls and Ghosts 64 will be similar to the original SNES title, but in 3D. The page also lists us release dates for upcoming N64 games, including Space Station, Silicon Valley, Robotron 64, Fighter's Destiny, Jeopardy! Nagano Winter Olympics 98, NBA in the Zone 98, Olympic Hockey 98, Olympic Hozui, MLB featuring Ken Griffey Jr. and 1080 Degree Snowboarding Earthworm Jim 3D, All-Star Baseball 98, Forsaken Wrecking Balls Ultra Soccer, WWF Warzone Turok 2, Andretti Racing Body Harvest Conquest Quest Dual Hero 64 and bottom of the 9th 98. This page features N64 news, including the release date announcement for Turok 2. Acclaim plans to release the game in August. Other games mentioned with release schedules include NHL Breakaway, 98, All-Star Baseball, 98, Forsaken, Wrecking Balls, Ultra Soccer, WWF Warzone and Shadow Man. Crave is developing a mystery RPG, known as Project Cairo, which will be released in 1999. The game developers are negotiating for a comic book license. There is a bits section about Wheel of Fortune for Europe, with Nintendo granting Take-Two a license to release games there. Also, a Japanese release date for Fighting Cup is listed for January 98. This page is a full-page advert for F1 Pole Position 64. The game is described as the most authentic Formula One game, featuring 16 actual Grand Prix tracks, 22 accurate racing cars, and 30 famous drivers. It promises realistic spin-outs, skid turns, and pit radio communication. The next page kicks off with a "What's that then?" section, aiming to educate readers about Nintendo, including key players, developers, and characters. There's a nod to NCL Nintendo Company Limited and its history. The main focus is on official release dates, mentioning Yoshi's Story for February 23rd, Banjo-Kazooie 3 weeks later, and speculation about 1080 degrees snowboarding. Used gamers might have to wait longer for NBA Courtside and F-Zero X, while European releases include Snowbo Kids, Yoshi's Story, and Mission Impossible. Zelda is noticeably absent from the release lists. Finally, we get to "I heard it on the grapevine." This is where the gossip comes in, with rumors of a Metal Gear Solid N64 version, and a cheeky no comment on Tekken for the N64. This page begins with insights into Nintendo's key figure, Hiroshi Yamauchi, and Mario's iconic status. Shigeru Miyamoto discusses the upcoming 64DD and titles like F-Zero X, Cabbage, and Zelda DD. Cabbage will combine the 64DD with the Game Boy pack and be a virtual pet. BT. There's also news about the game Robotech and the status of Mission Impossible, plus talk of a gold Zelda 64 cartridge. Finally, there's a list of Australian 64 release dates, including Cruisin' World, Kirby's Air Ride, and Mission Impossible. The next page has a news section. It kicks off with Koei announcing they're making games exclusively for the N64, moving away from strategy and RPG titles. Then, British developers Cranberry Sauce, led by John Rittman, are developing for the N64, aiming to bring classic gameplay back, mixing Mario-style adventures with logic puzzles. There's a Matchday 2 image, and a pic of Head Over Heels. Finally, there's a section on Acclaim Sports Soccer, originally titled Ultra Soccer, developed by Probe, promising improved gameplay and graphics compared to ISS. The page also lists several unknown games, TBA games, including Attack, Biofreaks, Centipede X, Joust Epic, Mortal Kombat 4, Mystical Ninja 64, NBA Courtside, Robotech, Crystal Dreams, Rebel Moon Revolution, Unreal, and Vertical Edge Snowboarding. This page features a comic strip titled The Adventures of Nick Tendo that depicts the main character in a series of comical and violent situations. First, Nick is at a doctor's because he is constantly being involved in physical fights with young women. This escalates to him fighting women, clowns, and even a cow. There is also an advert for Madeira Games, which focuses on US N64 games and other games that they sell, with titles like Diddy Kong Racing, Duke Nukem 64, Yoshi's Story, Aero Fighters Assault, San Francisco Rush, and Extreme G. The next page is a first looks preview of the Nintendo 64 game Body Harvest. The reviewer praises the game's premise of time-traveling aliens using humans as a food source, the variety of vehicles available, over 130, and the combination of shooting, driving, and strategy gameplay. They believe Body Harvest has the potential to be one of the best releases of 1998 and a truly original title for the N64, comparing it to Blast Core in terms of originality. Screenshots show various vehicles and alien enemies. This page presents a first-looks preview of Pod, Planet of Death, for the N64. The reviewer notes the racing game market on the N64 is becoming oversaturated, expressing hope that Pod can stand out. The premise involves racing to escape a planet plagued by a deadly toxin, with 8 vehicles and over 20 adjustable components for customization, like the aerofoil angle and the slide control to help customize your craft. The reviewer hopes for a quality conversion of the PC version, praising the game's potential for speed freaks and suggesting it could rival Extreme G. Screenshots showcase various tracks and racing action. The next page features Art of Fighting Twin, a new version of the Neo Geo fighting game for the N64. The game offers 2 modes, a real mode for realistic fighting and a super deformed mode, where characters are squished and made cute. The game promises around 20 playable characters, with hidden ones to unlock. It emphasizes quick reflexes over complex combos, with lush graphics made from polygons and flashy textures. It includes fiery glowing fists and real-time lighting. The control system is similar to the original Art of Fighting series, with projectile attacks and throws. Expect to see Japanese characters and Street Fighter-style moves. This page offers a first look at Art of Fighting Twin for the N64, building on the previous page's introduction. It highlights the game's 2 distinct styles, realistically proportioned fighters and manga-style, super deformed characters. The game boasts up to 200 items to collect in super deformed mode, which unlock new moves and character powers. The realistic mode offers both 2D and 3D gameplay options, allowing players to sidestep opponents. The reviewer jokes about the potential of pitting real fighters against super deformed fighters, but expects that it won't happen. It mentions the game uses the Rumble Pack and is being tipped as a top game. It also refers to similar gameplay to Street Fighter 2. The page features screenshots of both the realistic and super deformed modes. Ciao. This page offers a first look at Spooky on the N64. It's described as a potentially scary game from ICE, known for titles like Total Carnage and Akira. The game involves controlling a character who can morph and shapeshift on a planet populated by the alien Archmorphs. Your quest involves finding shards of a mirror across 10 levels and defeating a nasty Archmorph to free a nice one. The reviewer remarks the game looks Zelda-ish in style and will feature comic book-style graphics with full MIDI music. They expect it will be available soon in the USA and Japan, but also joke, if the game can provide the gore, then it will be a top game. The page features screenshots of the game, including aliens, monsters, and desolate landscapes. The next page features a first look at Boogie Boogie for the N64. The reviewer was looking forward to it last year, but it got delayed. Now they've got more info on the new and improved version. They thought it looked original and innovative, and that if it had been released alongside Blast Core, it would have been a success. The previous version was more of a simulation, but now it's a blast and race game. There are 2 play modes: Time Attack, where you race against the clock to rebuild your buggy, and a mode where you traverse stages, taking out computer-controlled baddies. The game is about 80% complete and looking promising, with excellent graphics and a humorous slant. Add-ons include missile launchers, grappling hooks, and winches. There are also rumors of 64DD support with a data disk. The game is expected to be released in Japan in early '98, with an American release to follow. This page offers a first look at Cruisin' World for the Nintendo 64, the sequel to Cruisin' USA, which the reviewer considers one of the saddest racing games on the console but weirdly still sold well. The sequel is hoped to be more spectacular and capture the fun of the arcade version, which the original N64 game apparently lacked. The review notes a reduction in pop-up, varied courses with challenging roads, and improved collisions. New driving scenarios include Egypt, France, Italy, China, Russia, Mexico, Australia, and America. The graphics are supposedly improved, and the sound is more pop music oriented. The game will feature various cars, including secret ones like a Hummer with a bonnet-mounted gun. Screenshots show racing through China, a talkie-like mountains and palm setting, and an underwater road section. This page offers a first look at the game Jest for the Nintendo 64, with the reviewer hoping it will be an innovative platformer to rival Mario 64. The game is developed by Ocean, a company known for its 8-bit and 16-bit games. The plot involves playing as Jax, a young jester's apprentice, tasked with defeating other jesters and the Council of Seven in a world called Humorous, to bring universal peace. The reviewer praises the game's graphics as outstanding and humorous, and the worlds are said to be mini-worlds, with cold mountains and scary fairgrounds. Screenshots showcase unique locations, like inside Big Ben. The game is slated for a summer '98 release in the USA, with a British release expected, and the reviewer hopes the music will match the graphics quality. The next page gives us a first look at BioFreaks for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer expresses initial skepticism, fearing it would be another Dark Rift, but these concerns were quickly dismissed. The reviewer notes that the Nintendo 64 has been lacking in good 3D fighting games, despite its capabilities, and names Mace, The Dark Age, and Fighter's Destiny as notable games in the genre, and mocks Dark Rift, Killer Instinct Gold, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, War Gods, and Clay Fighter 63 1/3 for their 2D plane gameplay. BioFreaks is touted as a true 3D fighting game, with strange, biomechanical characters, and the ability to fly during fights. The game is set in a futuristic distant planet, and the fighters are a mix of flesh and metal. The screenshots feature fighters like Bullseye, a minigun-wielding character. The reviewer also mentions the character selection screen and the ability to fight at different heights on the stages, emphasizing the game's strategic depth. This page continues the first look at BioFreaks. The reviewer is impressed with the game's savage nature, highlighting the ability to sever limbs, which affects the player's moves and renders them useless. Plumes of blood are mentioned, leaving a mess on the arena floor, even bloodstains that appear on the screen temporarily. The reviewer compares the controls to Mortal Kombat and Tekken, calling them easy to use. The reviewer also points out, Zipper Hero is covered in metal spikes that cause damage if you get too close. The reviewer concludes that if the game gets the OK from Nintendo, it could be a real winner. This page is a preview of Yoshi's Story for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer reminisces about playing Super Mario World on the SNES, and notes that the N64 still has the power for 2D platformers, also stating that the game is addictive with charm, personality, and luscious graphics. The article mentions Yoshi's Island on the SNES as a point of reference, and describes Yoshi's Story as a 2.5-dimensional platformer. The page includes screenshots of the game with Yoshi. Yes. Cha. This page continues the preview of Yoshi's Story for the Nintendo 64. It's being touted as a graphically beautiful and charming platformer with a non-linear level design. The gameplay is described as a quest for fruit, hidden in both obvious and difficult Nintendo Reach locations. The reviewer notes, the level select screen is like turning the pages of a book. Screenshots showcase various worlds like Mountain World, Jungle World, Sea World, Volcanic World, Sky World, and Ghost Castle. The writer states that upon completing a level, it is like turning the page in the book, and you get to move on to a different world. The next page is titled, Yoshi's Story. It delves into the history of Yoshi's appearances in previous Super Mario games, starting with the original Super Mario Bros., then Super Mario Bros. 2 and 3 before getting to Super Mario World, where Yoshi first appeared as a playable character. The page highlights the evolution of gameplay mechanics, from swallowing enemies and turning them into eggs, to using the analog stick for control, as in Mario 64. The reviewer praises Yoshi's Story for its high-resolution graphics, imaginative designs, and the variation and richness of textures and colors, and touches upon enemies and environments within the game. It briefly touches upon the animation in the game, and the world it creates. It also shows what happens when you die. The next page continues the Yoshi's Story feature, exploring the evolution of Yoshi's design from his pixelated origins in Super Mario Bros. On the SNES to his N64 incarnation. The reviewer is impressed with the graphics, describing them as unlike anything seen before in a 2D platformer, referencing Silicon Graphics visuals from Donkey Kong Country. They highlight the game's unique textures and colors, mentioning levels that look like they're made from denim with embroidered details, and discuss the soundtrack and how it changes depending on Yoshi's health. They conclude that while the gameplay might not be entirely original, the game offers a refreshing experience with its charm and personality. There is also a brief mention of bosses like the Marshmallow Cloud and Genie Ghost. This page is a preview of Quake 64. The reviewer is excited about the game being a real game, a game of blood and a game of terror, contrasting it with the cutesy Nintendo games of the time. They say that Quake 64 surpasses its PC counterpart graphically, with a smoother frame rate and better animation. They also praise the lighting effects and texture maps, finding that the game's supposed dark atmosphere is actually quite colorful, with glowing skies and neon water. There are screenshots of a trooper getting axed, and a secret area being found. The next page delves deeper into the ways you can meet your end in Quake 64, highlighting the game's arsenal of impressively destructive cannons. It showcases 6 weapons: the axe, shotgun, double shotgun, nail gun, super nail gun, grenade launcher, rocket launcher and thunderbolt. Each weapon gets a description, with humorous commentary like, "I'm gonna get medieval on yo ass," for the axe, and a warning that the thunderbolt will fry anything it comes into contact with. The review emphasizes the game's immersive atmosphere, with music made from chains clanking, babies wailing, and the sound of your own heartbeat. It sounds like a total nightmare. The lighting effects are truly stunning, and the silhouette of the fiend is all you can see as it slices you to pieces. Quake 64 features a variety of monstrous enemies, including the Trooper, Rottweiler, Chainsaw Massacre Guy, Samurai Soldier, Zombie, and Fiend, all designed to inflict maximum harm. Gameplay involves shooting, puzzle solving, and navigating non-linear levels filled with traps and secrets. The multiplayer Deathmatch Frenzy mode, inspired by Quake's online success, allows up to 20 players on specially designed levels. The article notes that the screenshots are from an alpha version, and the final game will likely have significant graphical enhancements to enemy textures, animations, and reduced pixelation. This page dives into Quake 64, positioning it as the definitive version of the original Quake, similar to what Doom 64 did for Doom. The article explores the game's lineage, starting with Wolfenstein 3D, described as the daddy of them all, and then highlighting Doom 1 and 2 for its advanced graphics and demonic themes. Quake gets a nod for its jump and crawl gameplay and polygonal enemies. And then Quake 2, which is graphically superb with levels becoming more mission-based. The preview suggests Quake 64 will have enhanced graphics and all new, intelligently designed levels, creating an immersive atmosphere that you could cut a knife with. The deathmatch mode is talked about, inspired by the internet phenomenon of multiplayer Quake, with the potential for up to 20 players on special levels. Although at this stage it's only 2-player deathmatch, the programmers are expected to make full use of the N64's 4 joypad ports in the final version. This page features a preview of Nagano Winter Olympics 98 for the Nintendo 64. Konami has acquired the rights and are trying to making a video game to match the real event. The reviewer expresses their love for the Winter Olympics and how Konami aims to educate them on the games with their new release. The game boasts motion-captured animations and detailed texture maps. It includes 10 different events and 2 variations, covering various winter sports, with the exception of ice hockey. A slight error in the downhill event could mean the end of all your Olympic dreams. Quirky. The next page is a preview of Nagano Winter Olympics 98, Konami's take on the Winter Games for the Nintendo 64. The preview highlights the game's various events, with some tricks being worth more points than others to become overall champion. You can play in either a championship mode or Olympic mode, solo or with up to 3 friends. The page includes screenshots of ski jumping and curling, which features British athletes and their quest for Olympic glory. The game features 10 different events, and with the figure skating event missing. This page is a preview of Nagano Winter Olympics 98 for the Nintendo 64. It showcases the different events in the game, such as curling, halfpipe, downhill, giant slalom, speed skating, slalom snowboarding, bobsleigh, luge, ski jumping, and freestyle skiing. The game allows you to compete in championship mode or Olympic mode, either solo or with up to 3 friends, for a surefire win and to become overall champion. The page points out pink goggles, jokingly saying it must be Eddie the Eagle. It also mentions that the controls are straightforward. The next page is an overview of Nagano Winter Olympics 98 for the Nintendo 64. It talks about Nagano City as the location for the games, and mentions the venues for different events like freestyle skiing at Izuna Kogen and curling in Karizawa. The preview highlights the game's visuals, drawing comparison to International Superstar Soccer. It describes the snowboarding and curling events, with a nod to the attention given to the ice reflections. The page ends by introducing the Snowlets, the Olympic mascot. This page is a preview of Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 98 for the Nintendo 64, reminiscing about hockey games of the past, like Blades of Steel and NHLPA Hockey on the SNES. It asks the question of whether this sequel can improve on the first outing in Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 97. The page mentions the long-running e-hockey series, and its role in popularizing American sports in video games. It suggests that Midway is looking to bring the goods with this new hockey title. The page is peppered with screenshots and closes with the taunt of, "Come on then Buster, me and you outside now." The next page continues with the preview of Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 98 on the Nintendo 64. It highlights how the game builds upon its predecessor, with tweaked gameplay options, allowing players to customize match length, fouls, team size and even fighting. A photo of Wayne Gretzky himself is included, naturally. The page also touches upon gameplay modes like single games, season and practice, showcasing various in-game action shots involving tripping, body checks, slamming, and hooking with the tagline, "Who do you rink you are?" This page continues the preview of Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 98, noting that the gameplay includes options for managerial aspects and practice modes. The graphics are excellent, with detail in players, clothing, and crowds. There are 7 different camera angles to choose from, and the music keeps the usual organ noises, with rock music for the intro and mid-match screens, and crowd cheering and booing. The next page previews Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 98, emphasizing features like the ability to instigate fights and the inclusion of real NHL teams and logos. The controls are intuitive, and new moves such as fake shots and body checking have been added. The reviewer notes the commentators' reactions to the honest brawls, with a Tom and Jerry style punch, which sounds bonkers. They also commend the game's polish and smooth gameplay, comparing it to International Superstar Soccer 64. Screenshots showcase in-game action, including a goalie seemingly oblivious to an incoming puck and players engaged in a brawl. This page is a full-page advert for 64 Game Buster, promising 132 pages of cheats, tips and solutions for every N64 game ever released. It claims to be the match for the fastest, most powerful games console on Earth. This page unveils Total 64 The Truth, an effort to separate good N64 games from the bad. They've included a last ability score to help gamers choose wisely. The page features a breakdown of game scores from 91,100%, cream of the crop, down to 020% games so bad, Nintendo's quality control should be questioned. Picks of the bunch highlights Fighters Destiny and WCW vs NWO. The reviewers share their game preferences, including Top Gear Rally, Yoshi's Story, GoldenEye, and more. The next page features a review of Fighters Destiny, a fighting game for the N64. The reviewer jokingly suggests that gamers waiting for a good fighting game on the N64 have probably turned blue from holding their breath. They then declare that with Fighters Destiny, it's almost time for a huge sigh of relief. The next page is a review of Fighters Destiny for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer notes their initial skepticism towards new fighting games on the system, citing previous disappointments like MK Trilogy, Dark Rift, and Mace: The Dark Age. They express surprise at Fighters Destiny, claiming it might rival Tekken in gameplay depth. The game differs from typical fighting games by awarding points for different types of attacks, such as knocking an opponent down. Screenshots show in-game action with characters Minky, the clown including Gain, and Valerie. This page continues the Fighters Destiny review. It kicks off with the headline "It's Your Destiny" and describes the game's story, highlighting the initial 9 playable characters and 4 unlockable secret characters. The reviewer praises the diverse fighting styles and moves of each character. The review then introduces some of the fighters: Abdul, the obligatory fat bloke; Bob, a Brazilian jungle character; Kazay, a ninja; and Meilin, a fast Chinese trickster. The review also touches upon the control scheme, which is surprisingly simple despite the range of moves available. It explains the point system and throw mechanics, and gives Justin's comment from the page. The verdict is that Fighters Destiny offers a unique fighting experience, setting itself apart from Tekken and other similar games. It praises the game's originality, and claims it has its own identity. This page continues the Fighters Destiny review, showcasing character art and descriptions for Leon, Pierre, Ryuji, Tomahawk, and Valerie. Leon is described as a tough matador, Pierre as a tricky French clown, Ryuji as a hero type, Tomahawk as a strong Native American wrestler, and Valerie as a German martial artist. The page then details the gameplay mechanics of Fighters Destiny, focusing on how to defeat opponents and special moves. It highlights the game's instant playability and depth. Screenshots showcase gameplay modes like Survival, Fastest, Rodeo, and Master Challenge. The modes include winning successive fights, beating boss fighters quickly, lasting long in a fight against a cow, and learning new moves. The page concludes that the game will take ages to master. Tipo. The next page dives further into Fighter's Destiny, breaking down the winning conditions and point system. Ring-outs are worth 1 point, throws 2, knockdowns and counters 3, and special moves 4. The reviewer praises the ability to hang off the ring edge and pull opponents out, adding to the game's tactical depth. They also note that despite having only 2 attack buttons, the combinations and move variety are surprisingly deep. There's a section titled Out of the Shadows, which highlights landmark fighting games of the last 10 years. Games shown include Way of the Exploding Fist, IK+, Street Fighter II, Mortal Kombat, Virtua Fighter and Tekken. The I Wish to Learn Sensei section discusses the option to customize your fighter, allowing them to learn new and more powerful moves by challenging the master and his sidekick, the Joker. Sub-games like the Rodeo mode are mentioned, alongside a challenge to defeat up to 100 fighters in a row. The reward for the 100 fighter challenge is unlocking a secret character, and there's a time trial mode to defeat the 4 toughest characters. This page is a review of Fighter's Destiny for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer seems impressed with its unique fighting experience. The review highlights the distinct fighting styles of the characters, praising the depth despite the limited number of attack buttons. The graphics get a modest 78 score, while the sound gets a slightly less than average 60. Playability and lastability score a respectable 93 and 90 respectively. Overall, the game gets a solid 93. Screenshots feature characters like Minky, Push Start Tomahawk, Valerie, Leon and Ninja. This page is a review of Madden 64, claiming Acclaim's NFL Quarterback Club 98 has stolen the American football limelight with its graphics and NFL license. The reviewer questions if John Madden 64 can hold a torch to this superlative title with a touch of sarcasm. They mention loving the good old game of American football, cheerleaders, and the abundant adverts. Screenshots show gameplay, including touchdowns and tackles. Options like Championship Mode, Custom Season, Create Player, and Trade Players are highlighted as features, and the review touches on building a dream team. The next page features a review of Madden 64, suggesting it's better than NFL QBC because of its artificial intelligence, where players actually cover, block, form patterns, and intercept rather than twiddle their thumbs. It covers game mechanics like downs and clock management, claiming the clock stops a lot. The review acknowledges Acclaim's NFL Quarterback Club 98 as a competitor, focusing on Madden's replay options. Screenshots depict various in-game actions, and they do love that American football sim. This page features a review of Madden 64 for the Nintendo 64. The review acknowledges that while it lacks the official NFL license and fancy graphics of NFL QBC 98, Madden 64 is actually a very good game, perhaps even better. The reviewer praises the control method, play selection, and direct control of players after a pass. A dissenting comment suggests that NFL QBC is just as good once mastered, and surpasses Madden in graphics and presentation. The page includes screenshots from the game and Madden's keys to victory, with tips for Phoenix and Buffalo. The next page is a review of Madden 64, noting that it allows players to change weather conditions, and that this affects gameplay. The review highlights the smart computer players who make interceptions. It also mentions the wealth of options available to players, including playing in a championship mode, customizing the game, and trading or drafting players. The reviewer appreciates the artificial intelligence of the computer players. They recommend Madden 64 over NFL QBC for one-player gameplay and faster, more instinctive gameplay. Madden 64 scores 68 for graphics, 75 for sound, 92 for playability, 85 for lastability, and an overall score of 89. This page features a review of MK Mythologies, Sub-Zero. It starts with a bit of humorous storytelling about the anticipation surrounding a new arcade game, only to be met with disappointment. The reviewer notes that the game fails to live up to expectations and damages the reputation of the 2D fighting game genre. The page includes screenshots from the game, illustrating the gameplay. The reviewer clearly wasn't impressed. The next page continues with the Mortal Kombat theme, focusing on the initial disappointment surrounding the release of MK Mythologies, Sub-Zero. It humorously points out that the original Mortal Kombat wasn't gory enough, leading to quick fixes like adding more blood, guts, and fatalities to win over the public. The review then touches upon the evolution of the Mortal Kombat series, mentioning the introduction of babalities and friendship moves, which added a touch of humor. The reviewer talks of their expectations for Sub-Zero, which sounds like it wasn't met. The page also features an advert for the game, parodying typical commercial tropes, with humorous captions like Sub-Zero, "Your breakfast is ready." It finishes with the magazine issue number and volume. Warrington author. This page is a review of MK Mythology's Sub-Zero, and the reviewer, Nick, admits he wasn't impressed. He describes the game as a poor sideways scrolling beat-em-up, not a proper RPG, and says it's like Mortal Kombat trilogy with jumping and only one character. He says it is a very horrific game that begins with the story of an amulet on top of a hill, and states that the game begins with a brief explanation as to why you are about to kill everyone you meet, which is then followed by a scene showing Scorpion jumping through a window. Nick says the fighters have no special moves and the collision damage is bad, and sums it up by stating, "If you really loved MK Trilogy, then maybe, just maybe, you will find something here to hold you." The next page shows Sub-Zero leaping into a pit in Hades, and a general overview of the game, which is not good, as the graphics, sound, playability and lastability get scores of 51%, 60%, 21% and 24% respectively, for an overall score of 31%. The reviewer is not a fan, summing it up with MK Mythologies isn't so much Sub-Zero as Below Zero. This page is a review of Famistar 64, a Japanese baseball sim. The reviewer, Nick, was initially bored but found the game surprisingly enjoyable, comparing it to Smash Tennis on the SNES, with its cute characters and weirdness. He notes the game has a serious baseball game underneath all the cuteness with lots of options, sub-training games and clever controls, recommending it for baseball fans who don't mind the Japanese text. The page features screenshots of the game's interface and gameplay, including sub-games like snowball fights and target shooting with Pac-Man icons. The next page continues the Famistar 64 review, delving deeper into the game's surprising depth. It highlights pre-game choices like player positions, energy management and morale, and the interesting 2D view during hits, allowing precise control. There is also the inclusion of the Wind 'em Up feature, which involves button-mashing minigames between the batter and pitcher. The page shows screenshots explaining the button inputs for actions like loosening your batting arm, inciting the crowd, holding the ball for a flashball, and even picking up dirt to aid curveballs. Seems like there's more to this game than meets the eye. The next page is a review of Famistar 64, calling it not your usual baseball sim, and highlights extra bits and bobs that make the game unique. Minigames include target practice where you hit Pac-Man-shaped targets, snowball fights to drain opponent energy, painting with a painting machine, and distance hitting to find the home run angle. Also included are diamond running, pumping pump, and fielding practice. The reviewer notes the game is accessible and easy to learn, but tricky to master, and the game has a lot of surprising depth to it. Famistar 64, despite its cute visuals, is a surprisingly deep baseball game. Its 16-bit inspired sprites and Namco-esque attention to detail create a unique experience. Features like diving catches, base stealing, and player energy depletion add realism. The game includes quirky elements like crowd reactions, Japanese exclamations, mascot cheering, and stadium-specific bonus objects for home runs. Post-game stats are viewable on a Namco website, and a bizarre story mode is present. While mostly in Japanese, the game's quality shines through. The review scores it highly, with an overall 86. The next page is a review of Wild Choppers on the N64. The reviewer notes the N64's lack of flying games, and wonders if this title can stand up to the Desert Strike series. They playfully acknowledge the potential for puns, with the name Wild Choppers. The review touches on how flight simulations haven't traditionally excelled on consoles compared to PC, and claims that consoles don't have enough buttons to accurately portray flying games. The reviewer wonders if people think flight sims are better suited for computers. Seta aims to prove everyone wrong with Wild Choppers, which caused a stir at E3. It boasts a sparse title screen and little else. This page features a review of Wild Choppers for the Nintendo 64. The turquoise title is prominently displayed, followed by gameplay screenshots. The reviewer notes that the explosions are reminiscent of Blast Corps. The review continues to detail the game, from the title screen to the missions, and the fact that there are 8 choppers to pilot that can all carry different loads of ammo, bombs and shells. The reviewer also mentions a briefing from a top American commander, which is a wooden dummy. This page is a continuation of the Wild Choppers review. There are screenshots of the different choppers you can pilot, like the Hard Bull, Firecat, Whale 32 and the Wasp, with pilot bios. The reviewer likes the graphics and polygons, but is less impressed with the sound, saying the Steve Vai-esque guitar solos drown out the action. They also mention the distinctive controls take some getting used to. Overall, it seems like a solid, well-polished shooter, despite the disappointing sound design. Finally, there is a diagram of the controls. This page showcases the rest of the Wild Choppers review. You get a peek at the weapon selection screen, showing AGAMs, AMs and AGAMs, with a small amount of text in Japanese with the cost of the weapons. The reviewer notes the game's major flaw is screen slowdown when there's too much happening. They compare it to Aero Fighters, mentioning it suffers from a similar issue. Despite the shame, it is a missed opportunity since there aren't many games of this genre on the N64. They also say that Aero Fighters Assault was horrific to play, as well as to watch. The reviewer concludes that with more development time, Wild Choppers could have been a great, accurate helicopter game. Ultimately, they call it a missed opportunity. The verdict breaks down like this. Graphics get an 81, sound a 43, playability a 76, and lastability a 79. The overall score for Wild Choppers is a 72. This page is a review of Puyo Puyo Sun 64, positioning it as a contender to puzzle game giants like Tetris, Super Puzzle Fighter, and Dr. Mario. The reviewer admits some surprise at seeing the game on the N64, feeling it doesn't offer anything a SNES couldn't handle. Despite this, they acknowledge it as a top game, anticipating strong sales in Japan but questioning its potential appeal elsewhere. The review explains the core gameplay, matching falling colored blocks to clear the screen and send garbage blocks to your opponent. Combos and chain reactions are key, and reversals are possible. The characters are described as a mix of Japanese archetypes, with unique designs like mutated fish and bees with syringes. The character choice, however, doesn't affect gameplay, as all players receive the same blocks. This page is a Total 64 review of Puyo Puyo Sun 64. The reviewer seems a bit bewildered by the game's existence on the Nintendo 64, suggesting it's not a huge leap over its SNES counterpart. The review highlights the vaguely Caribbean vibes of the game. It also gives the game a verdict breakdown, listing the name, publisher, compile, number of players, 12, release date, out now, game type, puzzler, and version, Japanese. The graphics score a 42, described as adequate but pretty dated. Sound gets a 39, noted for its cheesy Caribbean tunes. Playability is rated 79, praised for its multiplayer, and lastability scores 69, with single-player mode being its downfall. The overall score is 71. The next page is a review of 64 Uzumo. The reviewer is surprised to see a sumo wrestling game on the Nintendo 64. He humorously describes the initial struggles with the Japanese options screen and the relief of finally reaching the fighter select screen. The game sounds bizarre, with the goal being to eject opponents from the ring and into the crowd, much to the crowd's annoyance. The reviewer finds the controls surprisingly easy to grasp. A section of the page is titled, Famous Sumo Wrestlers, featuring humorous takes on characters like Edmund Honda from Street Fighter, Ganryu from Tekken, and even Total 64 writer Aaron Taylor, who's been known to parade around in a nappy from time to time. This page continues the review of 64 Uzumo, a sumo wrestling game for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer mentions that you can control your wrestler's movements and use special attacks. His preferred tactic is repeatedly slapping his opponent until they're nearly unconscious, and then throwing them out of the ring. This strategy apparently works most of the time, with one exception where an opponent jumped over him and shoved him from behind. The game has a 2-player mode, and also includes a training mode and a story mode, all in Japanese. The graphics are simple but accurate, and the animation is nice. The sound effects consist of grunts and groans, along with crowd noise and commentary. The reviewer notes that while those who know Japanese may enjoy the game, most English-speaking players will find it too confusing. The game receives scores of 35 for graphics, 40 for sound, 45 for playability, and 44 for lastability, resulting in an overall score of 39. The next page features a review of Wheel of Fortune on the Nintendo 64. The reviewer expresses disappointment that Nintendo would release a game like this, suggesting it could damage their reputation, also commenting that the digitized characters look of poor quality. They describe the basic gameplay loop as guessing letters and solving puzzles to win virtual money, also joking that the chances of finding people to play with for the multiplayer are slim. The reviewer mentions that the game was developed by Gamtech and introduces some American women. A solution to the puzzle is provided at the bottom of the page, which is, practice makes perfect. This page is a scathing review of Wheel of Fortune on the N64. It certainly doesn't pull any punches. The reviewer is clearly not a fan, suggesting that playing the game might lead to being haunted by canned applause. Oh dear. They described the gameplay as repetitive and tedious, with a constant loop of guessing letters and spinning the wheel. The graphics receive criticism too, with the reviewer commenting on the poor quality of the digitized characters. They summarize by advising against buying the game under any circumstances, awarding a poor overall score of 13 out of 100. It's safe to say this one won't be winning any awards. This page is the Total 64 Reviews Roundup, a collection of short reviews for various N64 games. Aerofighter's Assault gets a score of 42%, with the reviewer lamenting its dullness despite their initial excitement. Automobili Lamborghini scores 72%, with the reviewer acknowledging it's not a bad game, especially for fans of the genre. Blast Corps receives an 89%, praised for its addictive gameplay and mix of puzzle solving and action. Chameleon Twist earns a 51%, criticized for its linearity and lack of Mario 64's charm. Cruisin' USA gets a 59%, described as a poor arcade conversion. Dark Rift achieves a 79%, noted as a promising fighter that falls short of greatness. Doom 64U gets a 89% score. The reviewer says it's good but dated. Bomberman 64 is given a 75%, the reviewer disappointed with its departure from the classic formula. Finally, Diddy Kong Racing scores a whopping 95%, praised for its depth and variety. This page continues the Total 64 Reviews Roundup. Doraemon scores 69%, the reviewer suggesting it's a quirky platformer that suffers from comparisons to Mario 64. Duke Nukem 64 gets 90% initially, dropping to 88%, with the reviewer saying it's good, but there is only one winner. Dynamite Soccer receives a scathing 25%, deemed appalling, and a step back. F1 Pole Position earns 80%, the reviewer underwhelmed by the improvements over Human Grand Prix. FIFA 64 scores 76% initially, then 58%, with the reviewer saying it's not bad, but has a top kickabout. FIFA Road to the World Cup 98 is given 78%, with the reviewer disappointed by poor A. Gambare Goemon 5 gets 89%, praised for its gameplay despite being incomprehensible in Japanese. Go! Troublemakers gets 43%, and it's playable but better off waiting for the official release. Extreme G revs up to 94%, hailed as the best racer on the N64. This page continues the reviews roundup. GoldenEye 007 scores a mighty 98%, the reviewer eating his words and calling it a game no one should miss. Hexen 64 gets a mediocre 63%, branded a cheap caching compared to Doom and Turok, but praising its 4-player deathmatch mode. Human Grand Prix is scored 80% initially, and then 72%, with the reviewer noting how it does not match up to other racing games. International Superstar Soccer 64 nets 97%, celebrated as the best football game, saying if you like football you will love this game. J-League Perfect Striker gets 93%, praised for its funny animation and gameplay. GQ World Soccer 3 also gets 97%, deemed a definitive improvement over the original. Killer Instinct Gold scores 69%, described as ludicrous speed and addictive, but jerky animation. King of Pro Baseball gets 91%, initially dropping to 82%, due to lack of human opponents. It's fun with a friend but frustrating on your own. Lylat Wars achieves 94%, hailed as a worthy sequel to Starwing with a surprisingly good plot. This page continues the reviews roundup, with a series of N64 game reviews and scores. We have Mace, The Dark Age, scored 89%, praised as a superb beat MUP, but not quite Tekken. NBA Hangtime gets a lackluster 51%, described as a repetitive take on arcade basketball. NFL Quarterback Club 98 earns 90% initially, then 89% at current, deemed a fun take on American football. Pilot Wings 64 earns 95% initially, then 91% at current, described as a classic, despite some preferring Blast Corps. Mario Kart 64 earns 93%, it is described as fun and addictive, especially in multiplayer mode. Yeti, San Francisco Rush, gets a mediocre 57%, criticized for tired gameplay and ropey graphics. Shindu Mario 64 gets a hefty 96%, it is described as a gimmick to drum up support for the Jolt Pack. Mortal Kombat Trilogy scores 78% initially, then 67% at current, it is described as not much better than the 16-bit versions. Multi-Racing Championship scores 80%. It is described as a decent racing game, but facing tough competition. The next page features more N64 games that have been reviewed. First up is Shindu Wave Race 64, with a hefty 93% score. The reviewer says the rumble feature is more distracting than helpful. St. Andrews Golf scores a 96% initially, then a dismal 42% currently. It's described as something terrible. Star Fox 64 earns a good 96% initially, then a slight drop to 94% currently. It is described as a classic with fun multiplayer. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire gets a poor 61% initially, then a worse 49% currently. It is described as disappointing. Super Mario 64 gets a 96% score. The reviewer calls it the greatest video game ever. Top Gear Rally gets a decent 85%, with the reviewer saying it is competent and good looking. Finally, Tetrasphere earns 84%. The reviewer calls it addictive once you get the hang of it. This page features a total 64 reviews roundup, with several N64 games under the spotlight. First, we have Turok. Dinosaur Hunter getting 93% initially, and 89% currently. The reviewer notes it's not a bad game, but feels dated compared to GoldenEye, mainly in design and gameplay with too many similar levels. Wave Race 64 scores 96% initially, and 93% currently, with the reviewer saying it's unique and original, only missing a Pamela Anderson-like character to dive in and rescue you. This carries on from the previous page comments. Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey gets 90% initially and 82% currently. The reviewer notes it's still the best hockey game at the moment, but maybe only for hockey fans. War Gods gets a score of 69%, with the reviewer stating that it needs a Tekken to shut up PlayStation owners. This sadly isn't it, as it takes its gameplay from Mortal Kombat, but it is now dated. WCW vs Enwo gets a 92% score, with the reviewer who had never played a wrestling game before admits that the game changed his mind. Lastly, Wonder Project J2 gets a score of 69%. The reviewer found the game a little too realistic as the game is in Japanese, and they were still on the first screen. This page is a birthday feature for Total 64 magazine. It looks back at the first 3 issues of the magazine. Kortedataman. Issue 1 featured a free 68-page Super Mario 64 solution, and a competition to win one of 10 N64s. The magazine cover featured the N64 console. Chris Marquet was the editor, and the price was £3.95. The highest review score was 96% for Super Mario 64. Issue 2's cover featured Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, and the highest review score was 93% for the same game. Issue 3's cover featured Blastcore. Justin Calvert was the editor, and the highest review score was 92% for Doom 64. This page continues the birthday feature, looking at issues 4 and 5 of Total 64 magazine. Issue 4's arrival brought the much-hyped Jolt Pack, which apparently got everyone at Rapide Publishing interested in the Nintendo 64. The cover featured Star Fox 64, and the highest review score was 97% for ISS Soccer 64. Issue 5 brought Mario Kart 64 to the UK. Captain Large of the Game on Software Emporium found time to play ISS 64. Justin Calvert was the editor. One writer, James Gale, controversially admitted that Mario 64 wasn't the worst game ever created, and the highest review score was 95% for Mario Kart 64. The next page is another birthday feature, covering issues 6, 7, and 8. Issue 6 was tricky with only 2 reviews, but the team had exciting new screenshots and information from the E3 show in Atlanta. They were the first to preview WCW vs NW, which got a respectable 92% in issue 11. Issue 7 saw the arrival of Dark Rift and Multi-Racing Championship, allowing 64 owners to argue with PlayStation owners about beat-em-ups and racing games. Nick Jones, a Nintendo devotee and sometime nude model, left PlayStation Solutions for Total 64. Alastair Felton, a new staff writer, started work 3 days before a deadline and didn't see the outside of the office for 72 hours. Issue 8 saw Justin Calvert spotted leaving work on time, so he was given a second magazine to look after PlayStation Solutions. Rare was secretly developing a Mario Kart-style game called Diddy Kong Racing, and the long-awaited arrival of GoldenEye 007 was released, which got a high rating of 98%. This page continues the birthday feature for Total 64 magazine. It showcases issues 9, 10, and 11. Issue 9 includes a report from the ECTS show in London, and 8 reviews. The arrival of Extreme G, GQ World Soccer 3, and Top Gear Rally for the Nintendo 64 were highlighted. Issue 10 features Diddy Kong Racing and the high-quality titles arriving in the UK for Christmas. The team also welcomed Dave Games' Animal Perry and Duke Nukem. Issue 11 covers Nintendo Space World 97 and the unveiling of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and Yoshi's Story. Intrepid reporter Nick Jones endures a 10-hour train journey to DMA Design in Scotland to check out their forthcoming Silicon Valley. The page also wishes everyone a happy new year, and notes this is the last issue before the 12th issue. The page showcases the front covers for NFL Quarterback Club 98, Duke Nukem 64, Xmas Edition, and Yoshi's Story, and the pages highlights the editor Justin Calvert is on all 3 magazines. The next page is a cheat zone, dedicated to providing cheat codes for various N64 games. It features Aerofighter's Assault, with instructions on changing plane colors and unlocking a secret plane. Bomberman 64 is featured with a method for unlocking extra battle arenas. Then there's Clayfighter 63 1/3, which gives codes for unlocking hidden characters like Dr. Kiln, Sumo Santa, and Boogerman, along with instructions for a secret options menu, stage select, random select, and different character color. On the other side of the page, Cruisin' USA gets some love, with codes to access other courses and hidden cars like the Jeep, police car, and school bus, plus a method for activating flashing lights and a siren, and a nitro boost. Total 64 mag to the rescue once again, and it's the definitive list, apparently. This page is another cheat zone, this time diving into Dark Rift, with instructions for playing as Sonork or Dimitron and Sonork, along with codes to see the character endings for Aaron, Demonica, Dimitron, Eve, Gore, Morphix, Nikki, Scarlet, Sonork, and Zenmuron. Next up, it's Diddy Kong Racing, providing a list of magic codes for things like disabling weapons, changing balloon colors, green, yellow, rainbow, red, and tweaking bananas. Other codes include removing banana effects, random character noises, 2-player adventure mode, removing zippers, maximum power-up, 10 bananas at the start, accessing the music menu, ultimate computer AI, small races, viewing game credits, 4x4 carts, and large characters. There is a guide to getting Drumstick as a selectable character. We then have Doom 64, with level codes for varying skill levels. Be gentle, bring it on, watch me die, and I own Doom. It also includes a super password that starts you on the last level with maxed out stats and equipment. A small credit goes to Justin McWilliams for most of the Doom 64 stuff. The page ends with some Duke Nukem 64 cheats for the US version only, including a cheat menu code, one for getting all items, invincibility, and switching monsters on or off. This page dives into a world of cheat codes and tips. We start with Extreme G, revealing codes for extreme speed, becoming extremely ghostly, magnify mode, racing upside down, stealth mode, unlocking the ultimate neon bike, ugly mode, wireframe mode, how to ride the roach, fisheye lens, race as a boulder, and quitting and still winning. There are also codes to race as the Extreme G team, shoot Fergus, unlock everything, drive the neon bike and open all courses, weapons, slippery tracks, and unlimited turbo boosts. Then there's F1 pole position, revealing how to get an extra car. Next up is GoldenEye 007, with a level-by-level breakdown of how to unlock cheats, specifying the time and difficulty needed for each. For instance, paintball mode is unlocked by finishing the dam level on Secret Agent in 240, while completing Janus Base and Antenna Cradle on Agent unlocks the Magnum. Completing the Aztec Complex on Secret Agent unlocks the Moonraker laser, and the Egyptian Temple unlocks the Golden Gun. You can get extra missions by completing the game as Secret Agent on Aztec, and 0E0 Agent on Egyptian. Hidden multiplayer characters like Mayday, Oddjob, Jaws, and Baron Samedi are unlocked by completing the game on Agent. Finally, Hexen 64 gives the button combination to access the cheat menu, along with cheats for invincibility, walking through walls, level select, killing all enemies, and full health. There's also a guide to accessing the collect submenu, unlocking all keys and full health. The next page is a treasure trove of cheat codes for various N64 games. First up is G-League/ISS Soccer, with codes for unlocking 2 new teams and big head players. Killer Instinct Gold offers ways to access all options and see the ending credits without the usual grind, plus playing as Gargos and battling on the Sky stage. Madden 64 reveals a hidden team and how to view the ending sequence early. Mario Kart 64 gets some love with a trick to race against course ghosts and a boost trick. Finally, NFL Quarterback Club 98 provides a long list of cheat codes for various effects like huge players, rock-hard running backs, tiny players, stretching players, fat players, turning players into Walter Payton, unlimited downs, superfast players, butterfingers, slippery fields, improved catching, excellent quarterbacks, jumping like Carl Lewis, and stronger, faster players. This page is packed with cheats and tips for more N64 games. First up, there's NBA Hangtime, which includes player clones accessed by entering specific last names and 0000 as the PIN, and a list of player names. Also included are access codes for hidden players using names and PIN numbers, like Dan Amrich with 2020 and Ed Boon with 0004. There are further secret codes activated during the Tonight's Matchup screen. Some of these codes result in Big Heads, Huge Heads, No Tag Arrow, Rooftop Jam, and All-American Basketball. Pilot Wings 64 gets a mention with hints on where to find the Birdman stars on Holiday Island, Crescent Island, Little States Island, and Arctic Island. For San Francisco Rush, there are codes for attempting to resurrect in place, disabling auto-abort, changing tire size and gravity. A code for Foggy Night is also included. You can also turn cars into mines, turn off track textures, and turn cones into mines. The next page is a tips zone for 2 games. First up is Shadows of the Empire, with tips on collecting challenge points on different difficulty settings to unlock things like the Lebo scanner, or the ability to fly as an Oxwing. There's also a section dedicated to Super Mario 64, offering tricks like getting Mario's hat blown off in Snowman's Land to find stacks of hats, as well as how to control the ending camera with a second controller, and even a glitch to carry the rabbit to other areas. Finally, a little tip to turn butterflies into 1 UPS on certain courses. Warrender. This page is all about cheat codes and tips for a few N64 games. Warrant. First up is Tetrasphere, with instructions on how to unlock extra music, a secret game, level select, and a vortex mode. It involves entering specific names and button combinations during gameplay. Next we have Top Gear Rally, where you can remove bilinear filtering, activate a rainbow mode, unlock the beach ball car, and enable mirror cars with specific button presses and in-game achievements. Then comes Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, providing a list of cheat codes for things like pen and ink mode, disco mode, infinite lives, gallery mode, show credits, spirit mode, all weapons, and unlimited ammo. Entering these codes unlocks a cheat menu, where you can toggle them on or off. Finally, there's Wave Race 64, with tips on unlocking reverse tracks, racking up massive scores, using the same racer in 2-player mode, and performing new stunts like double flips and helicopter stunts. There's even a guide to becoming a dolphin racer and doing dolphin tricks, plus a tip for a speed burst at the start of a race. This page lists datal codes for various N64 games, allowing for in-game cheats. Games include Bomberman 64, Infinite Lives, etc., Extreme G, Turbo, Unlockables, FIFA 64, Goal Adjustments, GoldenEye 007, Infinite Health/Ammo, and many more. Cheats vary widely, offering everything from infinite lives and items, to specific modifications, to gameplay elements like time, points, and vehicle unlocks. A disclaimer notes, Datal provides the codes, but Total 64 is not responsible for their effectiveness. The next page is the firing line letters section, where readers' questions about N64 games are answered. Gamster LMP, a maker of N64 accessories, is the new sponsor, giving away LX4 joypads and steering wheels. One reader voices concerns about Doom 64 sprites and gun perspective, while another inquires about Diddy Kong Racing, a possible N128, and memory card issues. The Total 64 team offers their truths on sprites versus polygons, gun realism, VGA resolutions, and the memory card quandary. This page presents more letters from readers in the firing line section. One reader inquires about Luigi and Yoshi appearing in Super Mario 64 2, and a possible Duck Hunt 64 sequel, even pitching an idea for a light gun with a jolt pack. Another reader shares their positive experience with the N64 after a price drop, and asks about buying a universal adapter and cool cheats for Shadows of the Empire. The Total 64 team responds to these inquiries, stating that while they would love to see the readers' ideas for Mario 2 in the game, they aren't directly linked to Nintendo. They do confirm Luigi will appear, but Yoshi's inclusion is uncertain. They also deem a Duck Hunt 64 sequel unlikely. As for the universal adapter, The team recommends the Blaze SFX64 versus 0.3.0. A final letter praises Mario Kart 64, despite speed loss and black borders, and also suggests a poster for games scoring 95% or higher. They propose giving away subscriptions to players who get their name in the high scores 4 times. The team agrees with the writer's sentiment about Nintendo moaners, confirms the subscription issue is being rectified, and that Diddy Kong Racing is worth buying. They also mention a poster is included in that issue, and that GoldenEye may have a score drop by the time Zelda comes out. Team SD. The next page features a letters section with readers' questions and the total 64 teams' responses. One reader inquires about Mace, The Dark Age, GoldenEye 007 cheats, controller cable length, a Street Fighter game for the N64, import game converters, cheaper import games, sequels to various games including GoldenEye 007, Key Gold, and Lilac Wars, and demos on the N64. The Total 64 team responds with varying degrees of helpfulness, confirming Mace is out, encouraging players to earn GoldenEye cheats, questioning the need for a shorter cable, confirming a Street Fighter game is possible, commenting on import converters and prices, and suggesting that sequels are possible, but also unlikely, and that demos will eventually arrive via the 64DD. Another reader from New Zealand praises the N64, particularly Wave Race, Pilot Wings, Super Mario 64, Killer Instinct Gold, and Lilac Wars. He also has questions, including about Tomb Raider 64, Internet capabilities, Super Mario 64 2, Clay Fighter 63 and a third, Zelda 64, and 64 Uzumo. The team responds negatively to Uzumo 64 and Tomb Raider 64. Finally, a reader named Andrew McBride expresses his love for film-based games like GoldenEye and Mission Impossible, and inquires about more of these titles coming to the N64. The Total 64 team struggles to come up with more film-based conversions, suggesting Alien Resurrection, Batman and Robin, and X-Files. An image of James Bond is also present. This page is another letters section, featuring feedback and questions from readers. One reader expresses disappointment with the childish games on the N64, and longs for more mature titles like Doom and Hexen. They also question the absence of Tomb Raider on the system. Another reader praises Wave Race 64, and asks about hidden features, the 64DD, and AI in games. The Total 64 team offers solutions and insights, including that the 64DD will be an add-on for expanding existing games and new games. The team also clarifies that A stands for artificial intelligence, but it isn't as advanced as some may think. The page concludes with a Picks Win Prizes section, showcasing fan artwork and announcing the monthly subscription winner, Chi-Young So from Holland, with a drawing of Link. This page is a letters and high scores section. A reader congratulates Norman Obaseki for his Wave Race 64 stunt scores, stating that he holds every stunt record. There's also a high scores section for Wave Race 64, listing best lap and race times for various courses, with names like Ian Thorley, Trevor Scannell, Jason Madigan, Justin Calvert and Matthew Ty. The bottom portion shifts to Foxy scores, which are Star Fox 64 high scores, congratulating Dmitry Jarazraj from Germany for dominating Aaron Taylor's scores. A list of Star Fox 64 level scores follows for Corneria, Fortuna, Solar, Sector X, Macbeth, Sector Z, Titania, Area 6, Bolts Defense Station, Venom, and other levels with names like Ben McBean, Dmitry Jarazraj, Aaron Taylor, and the rewards for total score. Screenshots of Star Fox 64 are shown. The section encourages readers to submit their high scores with proof, possibly even cash for those so inclined. This page features the top karting high scores. Despite being flooded with entries over Christmas, only a few actually made the grade. It seems Trevor Scannell is the one to beat, but there is an intrepid young Swede by the name of Patrick Laasco on his tail. The page lists scores for Luigi Raceway, Moo Moo Farm, Koopa Troopa Beach, Kalimari Desert, Toad's Turnpike, Frappe Snowland, Choco Mountain, Mario Raceway, Wario Stadium, Sherbet Land, Royal Raceway, Bowser Castle, DK Jungle Parkway, Yoshi Valley, and Banshee Boardwalk. Screenshots of Choco Mountain are shown, and a note reminds players to enclose a photo of their scores as proof. Then there is GoldenEye 007 scores for various levels, such as Dam, Facility, Runway, Surface, Bunker, Statue, Silo, Frigate, Surface, Bunker, Archives, Streets, Depot, Train, Jungle, Control, Caverns, and Cradle. Finally, There's a call for Extreme G and Diddy Kong Racing submissions. This page is a full-page subscription advert for Total 64 magazine, offering 12 copies for the price of 10. The ad includes a form to fill out, including options for payment via check, postal order, Visa, or Access credit card, and features a picture of a character with bright red hair. This page is an advertisement for back issues of Total 64 magazine. For £4.95 each, readers can purchase various issues from the magazine's back catalogue. Featured issues include Issue 2, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, featuring a guide to Wave Race. Depacti, Issue 5, Mario Kart, War Gods, and Wonder Project. Issue 6, Preview of WCW vs NW, Hexen 64, Go-Go Troublemakers. Issue 7, Dark Rift, and Multi-Racing Championship. Issue 9, Extreme G, Mace, Bomberman 64. Issue 10, Duke Nukem 64, Diddy Kong Racing, Mischief Makers. Issue 11, WCW vs NOO, Automobili Lamborghini. A back issue order form is included at the bottom for readers to fill out and send in with payment. This page is the cover of issue 13 of Total 64 magazine, featuring a futuristic ice skater. Yoshi's story is teased, promising a tale of the little green dinosaur. There's also a free 64-page Fighters Compendium, covering moves from every N64 beat-em-up, and previews of NBA in the Zone 98 and Nagano Winter Olympics 98, with the latter promising adrenaline-pumping sports action from Konami. The issue is dated February 27th. The next page is an advert for Total PlayStation magazine. Tekken 3 screenshots feature, with exclusive Mortal Kombat 4 content and Time Crisis, plus a free Command & Conquer Red Alert guide. Also includes free membership to Special Reserve. The magazine will be available on January 22nd for £2.95. If you wish to receive the magazine, you can send away for a copy using the form on the page. This page is the editor's sign-off, where Justin Calvert bids farewell to Total 64 readers as he moves on to a new games magazine called PC Force. He humorously mentions clearing his desk with a shovel, and expresses dread at having to pay to play his N64 at home. He teases a great issue ahead, including a full review of Yoshi's story. It's signed off with a cartoon image of the Total 64 team, celebrating with a happy 64th birthday cake. Games mentioned are Yoshi's Story, Quake 64 and Fighter's Destiny. The next page is a full-page advertisement for Sightings, Investigation Alien Phenomena. It promises to expose top-secret CIA projects, alien encounters, and conspiracies, enticing readers to open your mind before somebody else does, and declaring, "We don't care for secrets." This page is the back cover of Total 64 magazine, and it features the Total 64 logo with the publisher's address below. It's a simple and clean design with a black background and bold, white lettering.